calling this, guys? I forgot what we said we were calling this. Brandon, what did you name this file?
The Malted Minis.
The Malted Minis. That's what it is. Here we are in January. It's the Malted Minis. And what are the Malted Minis? Well, they're not necessarily an after the final pour. It's more of a smaller episode because, well, it's January and we're going to take some time off. So we figured, oh, nice glass, Brandon. Why didn't I use mine? What an idiot.
I didn't have mine washed in time because I didn't know it was there.
Brandon was kind enough to get us malting our pint glasses. Very exciting. Something that I've wanted to do, but I always just think about it too late. Anyways, so yeah, we're gonna do. It's
Brandon's way better. Brandon's way better at adulting than we are. I've discovered that.
This is true. Have you met his son? Amazing. Anyway, nothing against your kids, Dan. I just haven't had the same amount of interactions. Anyway, so what we're gonna do here? It's January, and when you're hearing this, we are recording these in December. We're gonna take some time off in January. We do have, I think, at least two episodes. We got 2 episodes coming in that just came out in January at the Maltese, and then our visit over at Howard Street. This will be the only month you'll hear Clark once in 2023, and hopefully that's the sign of things to come. Maybe he's just gone. Maybe we don't have to deal with him anymore. Although I love his fact checking, and anytime he shows up, I mean, there's always a fun new person we've never met right around the corner. But anyway, so this is what we're doing. Happy New Year, guys. I guess we can say that now, right? I mean, even though it's December, but now people are hearing us say Happy New Year to each other.
So Happy New Year to the people. To the people.
Yes,
hopefully 2023 doesn't suck so far.
I hope. I mean, it's really early, but I mean,
this year started it off. 2022 started off with a bang, knocking out Betty White right in the first week of the year or something like that. Yeah,
Yeesh, not good. But here we go. We're gonna talk about a beer like we normally do, and we're all not in the same room. We're all in our own places, trying to do this again. And the beer that we are drinking this week is a beer that I got from my boss's boss. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Thank you. He's still my boss.
It's like your grand boss.
Yeah, exactly. He is a big brown ale fan, just like myself. He's not a big beer drinker. In fact, every now and then he will message me and send me like a menu of a place that he's at, and he's like, "What do you think I should try?" Which has become my thing, I guess. But he's a big brown ale fan, and I am as well. And he loves this beer. It's from Petoskey Brewing, from Petoskey, Michigan, which, by the way, guys, is 6 hours away from Chicago if we ever wanted to go up there. And this beer is called Super Trooper. It is a brown ale with coffee. And if I'm not, let me take a look at this. It's an English brown ale. It's brewed with Columbian coffee beans and donuts from a local producer.
Yeah, and the can discusses how it is donating 10% of all proceeds from the sale to My Cops, Michigan Cops, an organization dedicated to supporting the surviving families and coworkers of Michigan law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty. Which is the name of the beer. Did you say Super Trooper yet? Sorry.
I did. It's Super Trooper.
Oh.
I can get behind that. I can get behind those proceeds going to those families.
Yeah. You know, I was actually going to ask you. So my this is a weird story, but my grandma had a dog, a poodle growing up, that was named Tosky, and it was after the Petoskey Stone, which I don't know if that's what this is. Like if you would say it Petoskey, I don't know.
Maybe there is a stone in Petoskey.
I'm going to look it up.
Maybe that's where the stone. Maybe that's where the stone comes from.
Yeah, maybe. History.
This is why this will be 20 minutes, because we're going to let Dan look things up and we don't have Clark on the ball ready to go.
Oh no.
Did you guys did anybody else, you guys have already poured this. What do you guys get, or Brandon, while Dan looks at this up, what do you getting on the aroma? Anything?
I'm getting some some dark chocolate. Not dark chocolate, like kind of like a milk chocolate-esque. And then a definite coffee aroma that's coming in hot.
I get a strong coffee aroma off of it.
And then some maltiness, and definitely smells brown. You know,
It's
got a familiar full context, what familiar? It's familiar to me in the sense that like any brown ale I've had, not any, but many brown ales I've had.
Most, sure.
I have a very kind of caramelized malt kind of nose to it, and I'm picking up on that.
When I check this beer, and that's what I'm gonna part of my descriptors. Smells like brown. Yeah, but you're right. I'm a big fan of brown ales, and there are not a lot of brown ales out there. We've talked with other breweries and owners and brewers that brown ales just don't sell very well, and I don't know why. I guess they're not sexy enough. But I love a good brown ale. It's like it teeters on the line of, I don't want to say it's not pale ale, because pale, I mean, it's a refreshing beer that you get a little roastiness from. It's not over the top. It's not like a porter. It's below a porter. But I don't know. I just feel like a brown ale is a nice, like an amber ale. That's another style that is just kind of a nice, subtle beer that you get different notes that I don't know. I sound like an idiot right now. I do love those two styles. Brown ales are my favorite, and I should brew more brown ales. As far as taste goes, I get coffee, and there is that like. So if you guys don't know, which you might know, I don't smoke cigarettes anymore, but I do vape. A long time ago, when I was buying all these crazy flavors, there was a donut flavor.
I remember that.
The vape smelled and tastes like donuts, and that's what I get from this. It's not like not a fake donut taste, but it is like a baked. I don't know. There is a donut cake like flavor in this. It's not super strong though. It's more coffee than anything.
Yeah, brown ale, coffee. I don't get. Well, I was gonna say my first couple sips, especially, it almost reminded me of one of those nitro cans. Like it was like had that kind of like texture to me at first.
I can see
maybe
that.
it was just me.
Even the head on the beer itself is kind of a little reminiscent of that, I thought.
Yeah, that little bubbles.
Yep.
Yeah, tiny tight bubbles.
It's definitely not a nitro beer, but I see what you're saying. It's
creamy.
not undercarb. Yeah, and it's not undercarb. It's quite nice actually. I like this. What are Dan? What's your take on?
Well, I was
brown
just
ale?
gonna
say brown ales in
say.
general.
Well, no, I was gonna say that Petoskey. There was an Ottawa tribe.
Oh, good. You've
there.
got the information now.
Yeah, it's said to mean where the light shines through the clouds, which is the name of the city. So they're just going off of there.
We must go up there then to make sure that is a truth and not just a name they chose.
Yeah, so brown ales. I like brown ales a lot. Like you've been saying, it's hard to find one. I mean, in Florida, there's like the Madura brown ale from Cigar City,
which is really good. And we're lucky enough to get that up here.
Yeah. And we get it up here now. And then Midwest Coast does a good one. And then there was one from, I think it was like Tyrena. It was a Wisconsin brewery, like the Rockies Revenge, like barrel aged brown ale. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that one is very tasty. I feel like that was when I first got into craft beer, and I found that because it's not like a high like price point for a barrel aged beer, because it's not like super strong in the barrel. But that is a good example.
Up in Evanston, there's a movie theater, like in their little downtown district, and we went and saw a movie there. And I remember they had that Rocky's Revenge on draft, so I was able to bring that into the movie.
Oh, that's nice. Brandon, what about you? What is your history with brown ales?
It's never been a go-to style for me, and not just because like it's not that I dislike them. But I feel most of the time, if I'm craving something a little darker, I'm usually going to go stout.
Sure.
Recently, though, I found myself going more towards dark lagers, or like the darker Belgians, trying to fulfill my 2022 goal.
2023 goal. Oh, no.
No, it was 2022.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry, my bad.
What I need to do now, like, I need to explore this style more, because I know, like, Aleman has a really good brown ale. Is that Soulman?
Soulman, I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's a salted. We did a Halloween episode with Clark. I think it was Clark's first time on, or one of his first times, with the Halloween episode where we grabbed random beers that were like, we couldn't get pumpkin beers, but we got like beers that were
fallish,
somewhat candy inspired. Expired. Oh yeah, the Soul Man's fantastic. Salted brown ale is awesome.
Yeah, and I know, and I think it might have been Soulman that they did this with, but I know. One of the guys from Ailman used to work over at Fountainhead, R.I.P.
Never forget.
And they had a night where they were pouring the beer, and Fountainhead had this really awesome like live fireplace, and it was like right. I think it was behind the bar. Yeah, it was behind the main bar. Or behind the bar, then there was like an area, like a small little sitting area behind the bar, if I remember correctly. They had a fireplace, but what they were doing is you could buy the beer, and they had this iron stoker like in the fire, and then they take it out and then dip it into the beer to caramelize all those sugars.
Were they doing that with a brown ale, or was that like because I know that's a lager, like a dark lager that is.
I feel like it was the brown. It may not have been, but But something also is telling me that they may have had an English mild that they did. Ooh. And
that would be so good.
Yeah. But just the idea of doing that with a brown ale or like darker lagers, I definitely want to try that at some point, because that seems like
I can't pronounce it. Fuck. Pronounce beer shit. It's it's not very good, but it's the process during which a short metal stick is heated to about 600 degrees Celsius, which is 1012 Fahrenheit, plunged into a beer for a few seconds. I've always wanted to try that. I know there are some places that do that, and I've not tried it myself, but wanted to go to a place where a professional would do it, and I wouldn't, explode my glass or burn my hand. Because that always just sounded like a cool way of trying a beer.
Yeah, it sounds cool. I just thought whenever Brandon was describing things, I just have another thing I liked about brown ales, and I'm not getting in on this one, but some brown ales you get like a real nutty character, and I like love that. Like this one, I'm getting more of the coffee and more of like the bitterness, which I don't know if it's from the coffee or from the roast, but it's a little different.
One fucking soundbite
I
was gonna say
it's a bit nutty.
Yeah. I was waiting for that, Brandon, because we are using the old school pandemic Zencaster that we used for a long time.
I prepared myself with a bunch of Full House clips.
Oh, great. Fantastic. We were, as a side note, Brandon and I were very surprised that Dan caught my Full House reference. So that's good.
Hey, I was like, when I was a kid, it was all about TGIF.
What do you mean when you were a kid? You're still a kid.
When I was a kidder.
19. Great. So when I was a kidder and it smells brown, we're off to a great start for our random episodes in January. But speaking of nut browns, didn't Goose Island once have a nut brown? A nut brown ale?
That sounds right.
Because a brown ale, because this, if I'm not mistaken, actually, let me pull this up. This is an English brown ale, and there are nut brown ales. I remember Mike and I one time had brewed a nut brown. I think we called it.
I've had this Southern Pecan from Lazy Magnolia before.
We called it Buster's Nut.
Goose had a beer called Nut Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Just
and I remember really liking that.
Hex Nut, yeah, that's the other one.
Yeah. And Dogfish had also had brown ale for a while, and I don't remember the name of that.
That wasn't the Raison d'Etre, was it?
No. They had like
I think it was just called brown.
Yeah, and it was just it smells like brown. It was just a brown ale. But there is something that I just find
Indian brown.
There you go. I don't know. I when I did the homebrew competitions at Lake Effect, I did a coffee brown ale because I think coffee pairs nicely with a brown ale. But just a standard straight up brown ale to me it's definitely a fall beer. It's like when you're transitioning from summer into fall. It's a nice beer to have on a cool evening in your yard around a fire. Thank you for laughing at that. But it's true.
I was looking at something on my phone.
Okay, that's not true. Thank you. But yeah, brown ale to me is just such an underrated style. And I know during the Maltese, I think we said we'd brew at least 5 beers, and a brown ale is something that I'm going to do and perfect. It's a fun style that I feel like is to me, you can do a lot with it, but it's best to keep it simple, kind of like a pale ale. So I think having a solid pale ale and a solid brown ale, and Brandon, you and I have a nice imperial stout that we are going to do this year.
I will say I'm pretty surprised that this is 7.3%.
Oh shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's pretty quick.
Yeah,
it drinks like it's like 4.5%. Holy
exactly.
shit. It's not super sweet. It's not boozy. I mean, I'm not expecting super boozy from 7.3%. But
when I was looking up names on Untapped, I was just like, I wonder how many brown ales I've had. And so I've had a lot. And I haven't done Untapped in a couple of years, but there's like, but it breaks it down.
Stop tagging you and shit.
American brown ale, Belgian brown ale, English brown ale, Imperial double brown ale, and other brown ale. And I've had 27 plus 11, that's 38, 40, 48.
with his math.
Like 54 different brown ales on here, which kind of blows my mind.
You know what? That's I kind of want to find out as far as brown ales, how many I've had. It's probably, I've had 23 American. Ooh.
Only
I even had one from Eris that I forgot about.
Let's go all the way back. I have 47 brown ales that I have checked in over time. Two Brothers, the more the merrier brown ale.
Ellie's brown ale. Ellie's brown ale is like a classic.
Wait, didn't you say Southern Pecan from Lazy Magnolia?
Yeah.
That's an English brown ale. I had that back in 2014.
Interesting.
Also, the last time I had a brown ale was the Working Mom Brown Ale Imperial Double from Revolution, which is very good.
Revolution Batch 1000 was an Imperial brown ale, according to Untapped.
Oh, and you know what? One of my local favorites is Brownie Points from Maplewood. That's also an English brown ale. When I brewed my brown ale 2 years ago, I think I was drinking that. But yeah, I this is the first year I think in the last like 3 or 4 years that I didn't brew a brown ale around this time of year. Kind of bummed about
Fat
that.
Squirrel.
Oh yeah,
that's call. A really good one.
Oh, Newcastle. Just joking.
Oh yeah. I don't know if they make it anymore, but Cigar City had one called Arudum, and I had that. I mean, looking at this back in 2014, and it was like one of my highest rated ones that I have on here.
I
wonder if
also Surly's Coffee Bender.
That was good.
Good call. One of the brown ales that I had from Dogfish Head was Palo Santo Marron, 2013 brown. It's Imperial brown ale. Man, I have had a lot of brown.
And then Goose Island's Christmas Ale was considered a brown ale.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that.
Ooh, Vegan Lumberjack from Old Irving.
Yep,
I got that one too.
2018. Yeah. So I'd say that we've definitely had a handful of brown ales over time. Oh, Wilco
Extremely
Tango.
Naughty Goose.
What is that?
It was a Goose Island beer, which I don't even see what the description is, but I had it in 2014.
Wilco Tango Foxtrot WTF from Lagunitas 2017. Oh, yeah. That was another Imperial double. So there are like Imperial.
There's a lot more than we remembered, but
yeah, again, but
they're also from like years ago.
Yeah, and I guess they don't sell well, but I know there's the lager revolution going on here. I'd like to see the brown ale amber revolution come to life. Let's see that. Let's start that, you guys.
I will say, just looking at my Untapped, a lot of the brown ales I've had have been. It looks like from when I was traveling a lot. And just going to breweries and trying stuff. So
interesting that's the style that you would go to while traveling.
No, it's
a lot of times you do flights.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And a lot of those, like, Jinx. Well, no, I was going to say a lot of those, and a lot of mine were too, and I was just flipping through, but they're like, you go to a brewery in the middle of nowhere or like whatever, and it's like those old school brew pub beers, like brown ale, whatever. I mean, like a stout, but like a more like old school stout.
I feel like going to a brewery for the first time and I saw a brown ale, I would definitely, maybe not a full pint, but a bigger pour than a taster if it was offered.
Ooh,
if I could.
So cool.
I mean, it's not, Dan, it's not about me being cool. It's just that I enjoy brown ales. Not everything is us needing to go after each other, Dan. Maybe that should have been our brew year's resolution is to just maybe be kinder to each other.
We can
I
try.
know it's okay. Maybe we'll try that for 2024. The rest of this year, it's we're not gonna do that.
Game
I
on.
want to have good episodes, not boring.
So
bullshit.
If you guys had also shout out, I do like the idea that it's called Super Trooper. I mean, I like the idea behind of why it where the proceeds, 10% of the proceeds go. But also, I do love the movie Super Troopers. Also, Super Troopers 2, even though it took a long time to happen, was like it was pretty good. So I do like the name of that. Also, my boss's boss who got this beer for me, I don't know if he did it this time, but he told me the last time that he bought an entire case of this beer. That's how much he likes it, which I just find very interesting for someone who doesn't like beer, loves brown ales, but this beer to me is more coffee and then a little bit of that pastry donut type taste, and then I get a brown ale. It's a decent beer for me. Like I like it. I would definitely, if he goes up there again, I would definitely like to have some more. Brandon, if you had to rate this out of 5 Browns, out of 5 Cleveland Browns, we're definitely not.
Are any of them Deshaun Watson?
Boo,
Say no.
What?
We're not going to rate this in.
I went to Cleveland Brown from Family Guy.
How many Clevelands would you? No, that sounds terrible. How many? What can we do this? How could we rate this?
How many nuts?
How many nuts? How many donuts would you give this out of 5, Brandon?
3.75.
I think that's fair. And your overall take on this beer?
I liked it. It smells like brown, which is, pleasing. I'm struggling to get. I think a little bit in the kind of the aftertaste. I'm getting some of the donut. I wish it was a little more prominent.
I feel like I'm starting to get metallic.
The coffee's the coffee's really strong, and I don't dislike coffee and beer by any means. But when there's another adjunct in there like donuts, I wish it was a little stronger.
So you're kind of hoping for more of a balance of the donut and coffee in a brown ale. Dan, you had said metallic. Do you think that you're getting that from the actual beer, or is that a combination of the beer and the coffee, or everything that's involved in there?
I mean, I've never gotten it on a coffee beer before, so I'm assuming it's just the beer, like the base beer, but who knows? It's not like off-putting in a sense. I just like occasionally when I like swish it around my mouth, I get that like metallic, like blood tinny kind of taste.
Maybe you have an ulcer in your mouth.
Yeah, maybe you should see a doctor. I think. Oh, sorry.
I was just say I agree with Brandon that it's like really strong in the coffee. I don't know if I get donut on it, but who knows? But I do want to say that you should tell your boss's boss that we said thank meow. And
okay,
that's
good. That was good. That actually was pretty good. Like, I don't know if that was appropriate. That should have been a better. Like, do we have like a ha or applause? Laugh. Yeah, no, that's good. So, Dan, how many out of 5 donuts? How many donuts are you giving this beer?
I'm gonna go with 3.25.
Ooh,
okay, I think that's fair. And is that based off of the beer
other
itself or other brown ales? Okay.
Yeah, comparing it to other brown ales in memory.
Okay. I think I'm in between you guys, or maybe I'm leaning more towards Brandon. I love a good brown ale. I think this is good. I would definitely drink it again. Is it something I would seek out? Probably not. But I'm a sucker for brown ales, and I think the coffee is done really well. I think the donut that I'm getting, maybe I'm sensitive to it again because of the whole vaping thing. So I just kind of pick up on, I don't know. It's like a baked, not fake flavor. I don't know, but I'm getting something in there. I would say maybe a 3.5, and I would definitely want to try it again. But for a brown ale, I mean, it's definitely tasty, but man, 7.3%, that is crazy. That's how high it is in alcohol, which, you have one of these, it's probably a good splitting beer. If the 3 of us were there together, and we split the can 3 ways, I think it'd be good.
Yeah, I do want to
Probably.
say it's a good coffee brown ale.
Mm-hmm.
I just, like I said earlier, like the more like nut brown ales. So, I mean, me dinging it like that, it's more of like personal preference.
I mean, I feel
You're
like
allowed to
that's
have those.
yeah, that's fair. Dan, welcome to the show. This is your 2nd year. I'm glad you can start using your personal preferences and your fucking ratings. Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah, overall, I think it's pretty good. And hey, way to go on our first little, what is it called, Brandon? I forgot already.
The Malted Minis.
The Malted Minis, just like a cereal. And I found a nice little song that we're going to use. Thank you again to Fluid Minds for the intro. And, well, I think that's going to be it for this one. Dan, keep it real.
You keep it real also.
Thanks, man.
I didn't know you were done. I thought you were like going to say something else.
No, but I wish you could see how distorted you look right now. Your face looks like it's melting. It's like a skull.
No, he's distorted for me now too.
It's insane.
Hold on. Oh, wait.
Who do you use for your internet, Dan?
Why is it? I mean, mine, it's not showing me as distorted, or you guys as distorted.
Brandon looks fine. I look fine. You look like you have no eyes and maybe your face is melting off your skull.
No, see, he
Maybe
looks
it is.
worse for you.
Oh, yeah, it's terrible. Brandon, I love you, buddy.
Love you, Kim.
And everybody, we'll see you guys next week for another Malted Minis.
Bye.
This has been The Malting Hour. Be sure to follow us on all social media by searching The Malting Hour and at themaltinghour.com. You can also follow us individually on social media. Brandon can be found on Instagram as BMDub81, on Twitter, BDub81, and on Untapped as BDubDrinksBeer. Tony can be found on Instagram and Untapped under Ace of Help Chicago, on Twitter, The Ace of Help Chicago. Clark can be found as Clarkowski on all 3. Dan can be found on Instagram as hip__hops and hip hops on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, like, and rate the show on your preferred podcast listening platform. Until next time, cheers from all of us at The Malting Hour.